one thing I really want to know how we got it wrong with the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. How did everybody get the processor size wrong? So everything that I had seen leading up to it, all the leaks, all the rumors, all the big networks, everyone was basically saying this is the new Samsung 4 nanometer processor. And then it wasn't really addressed. Nobody talked about it in the Google keynote. And then there's a confirmation afterward because somebody determined that, wait a minute here, it is a 5 nanometer processor, just like the last Tensor chip last year, but everybody thought it was a 4 nanometer. And I don't think that this materially matters really at all, one way or the other. It's just funny. And this is another reason why I go back and say always follow leaks and rumors and early access information. Always have a grain of salt out there. Not that anyone's trying to mislead anyone. I don't know why anyone would willfully try and mislead somebody that it's a 4 nanometer instead of a 5, but collectively, everybody thought it was going to be a 4 nanometer processor. I mean, most people go up every year. By people, I mean brands, and Apple, Samsung, MediaTek, all those guys. Every year, it's a new, smaller chip. You get more power, and you get more power efficiency, better battery life for the same amount of energy, effectively, or even less. And it was kind of presumed too because Google said that there was a tremendous extra amount of like 60% extra power, 20% extra battery power efficiency. So everyone's like, okay, cool, yeah, it's a 4 nanometer processor, and then it's not. So interesting, a lot of things going on there, and some of it I think has to do with the reorganization of the cores that you get on the Tensor G2. So last year there was like 21 cores in the GPU that it used inside of the system on a chip. That's a lot. And when it would do things with the GPU, yeah, it would burn some power up. It would get warmer. I think maybe we might be seeing some more power savings because there's less cores. I believe there's 7 now. And it's a newer core than what was used last year for those GPUs. So I think that probably helps out. And also with the tensor processing unit, that also helps offload some of that extra power management stuff. So because of the customization and the way that the cores and everything's redesigned on this new Tensor G2, that probably leads to the power efficiency and the savings, even though they use the same 5 nanometer process. And because of that fabrication process, I can only imagine it probably had to do with the level of customization in the chip, because Google is relying on Samsung to make these chips. They use the 5 nanometer process that Samsung does. Some people find that inferior. Maybe it was in the past, maybe it is now. Who knows? But it does seem like it's working pretty well. It does seem to be working better, at least from the first 24 hours I've been using this in the Pixel 7 Pro. So there's been a couple of changes there. Like I said, it went from like 21 GPU cores down to 7. And then we got the newer cores. I believe it's an A78 is what it is. The way this one's set up is a little weird, and I explained this in another video before. Typically, when you have a system on a chip, and actually I have one right down here. Hold on one second. So I actually want to show you, this is what a system on a chip looks like. This is the little processor that's in your phone. This actually happens to be a MediaTek Dimensity 9000. Tiny little guy right here. And all the stuff that's in there that's what powers and controls everything on your phone. The GPU, which is the graphics processing unit, the CPU, the sensor processing unit, and you also have the tensor processing unit. So you got all 3 of those things in there, plus the modem, all that good stuff, built into that tiny little chip. So what happens when they say 5 nanometer? They're talking about the density of the chip. So when you go from a 8 millimeter to a 5 to a 4, it's condensing that down. And I guess whatever, maybe it's the rules of thermodynamics. I don't even know. I don't know all that science stuff. I just know that the smaller the chip, the less room there is for the electricity to bounce around. So you get the same amount of processing power for using less power because it's operating in a less space for giving the same amount of energy. So that's kind of a cool thing. That's how it works. 5 nanometer in here, same as last year, but it's more powerful, more power efficient, better battery life, supposedly. I don't know. That's Google wizardry, I guess. And we'll test it out. We'll see how it is. And people seem to be remarking that the battery life seems to be improved. I really do like to hold that stuff kind of close to the vest. I don't like to talk about battery stuff too much within the first couple of days, because the first 2 days, always a wash. When you get it, you first set it up, you're on Wi-Fi, you might be mobile, you're running around, you're downloading your apps, you're setting up your banking stuff, you're using it a lot more than you typically would, and it's doing a lot more stuff on the back end, getting background data, downloading stuff, setting up things. So there's a lot of flux going on the first 2 days. So the first probably 1 or 2 good charging cycles on this really are not an accurate depiction of what you're going to get. You want to give it at least 5-6 days for it to do the adaptive battery, learn everything, kind of get a good idea for what your routines and habits are and what it needs to have turned on and off at all times. and then you can get a good measurement of the battery life. So yeah, just really interesting stuff here. I was totally taken aback by this. I even had some people in the comments, and somebody was like, hey, Android Authority is saying this is a 5 nanometer processor. I didn't believe it. I thought it was an older article until I went and I was looking at some stuff on GSM Arena, which is where I usually get my spec information. And it also said 5 nanometer. And then I did some more research, and yeah, it looks like quietly Google was just letting everyone believe it was a 4 nanometer, which, I mean, I can't really assign any sort of mental state to them for allowing that to happen, because they're not the ones that started the rumors in the first place. But it would have been nice if they told everybody at the keynote, hey, this is a 5 nanometer processor. So I don't want to assign any sort of guilt to them because it's not their fault. But it would be nice to know exactly what we're working with under the hood here, and maybe some more layman's terms and some expressive mathematics, so people know, okay, what the size, all the frequencies, the cores, and stuff like that, which people run benchmarks and have deduced things. But yes, whether it's 5 or 4 nanometer, apparently caught everybody off guard, and it's 5 nanometer process. So again, that doesn't really matter. What matters is how well it runs. Does it run well? Can you play stuff? Can you max everything out? Can you get 60 frames per second? Or is it overheating? Is it causing any problems? If it's not that big of a deal. It does seem like they actually put some work and some effort into retooling this, and also souped up the little cores a little bit for the 2 primary cores, a little bit extra juice there. But yeah, it's running smooth. I'm not having any problems with it, and I think it's a sharp looking phone, whether it's got a 5 nanometer process or a 5 nanometer or 4 nanometer process under the hood. So that's all I've got. If I confused you thoroughly, then please sound off in the comment section to let me know. I apologize for that, but sometimes try to get into the more scientific spec stuff and talk about how these things actually work, and really just wanted to address that because it's not really being made apparent a lot of places, and people should know, look, is it a 5 nanometer? Is it a 4? And I wish Google really would have said something about that to tell people. So that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, if you like this stuff, then please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.